They have made a complex issue like immigration into a black and white issue. Let's look at some of the far-right's arguments. Argument 1. They are destroying our culture. Culture is not a fixed thing, it is ever evolving. Most of the things we think of as our culture are in fact from other cultures, or evolved through cultural diffusion, the mixing of cultures. Technology is culture, food is culture, music is culture, textiles is culture. Let's put it simply, without cultural diffusion you would likely be living in the Dark Ages. If you perhaps welcomed and shared your culture with migrants, your culture might just endure. Argument 2. Islam is a dangerous religion that's being forced upon us. You cannot single out Islam as being any more or less dangerous than other religions. What religious scripture ambiguously, metaphorically says, and what religious leaders say and do, are normally two different things. Both Islam and Christianity are both Judaic religions that have both been responsible for genocide, mass slavery, mass rape and persecution of women, children, and indigenous traditional cultures. Religion in general has been historically used to control ideological thinking, to create fanaticism, to drive conquest, to create cohesion, to control citizens and drive them towards the elite's geopolitical agendas. Christianity itself was not originally of our culture and was largely forced upon us. So do we ban all religion from our countries? Because it is religious dogma and hypocrisy to think your religion is the true and only one. It is that ill-informed belief that commits people to acts of extremism in the name of their so-called God. Personally, I would like the history of religions to be taught to our young, the truth, warts and all, and also theological studies from around the world so that we can see the spiritual syncretism and interconnectedness of us all, not teaching the young what to think, but how to think. See, when people look at it all systematically and logically rather than dogmatically, they can remove the falsities, the belief systems created by the elites of the past, that were created for the geopolitical ambitions of that time in history. Argument 3. They are destroying our genetics. We can all trace our genetics back to a common ancestor in Africa. That means we are all Africans. We were all originally the same color. By today's racial standards, black. European scientists have been trying to prove their white superiority through the sciences since the beginning of the science era in the 17th century by advancing things like polygenism, by denying a common origin between European and non-European peoples. There are still racially motivated scholars and so-called experts trying to advance this nonsense to this very day. But every non-pseudo-scientific conclusion and the overwhelming evidence always led back to Africa. Thus, back to blackness, to monogenism, the theory that all humans came from a common source. Genetically speaking, Africa is the most diverse place on Earth. Everyone outside of Africa descends from about 2,000 to 10,000 people, roughly 60,000 years ago. This tiny source population roughly became over 1 billion. This is what you call a genetic bottleneck. This weakens the genetics. Broad genetic diversity strengthens our genetics. Marrying your family, not so much case closed. I have literally heard people saying some uneducated racist stuff like, just because you were born here doesn't make you English or Irish or French or German, etc., etc. Should we all call ourselves African then? Because their ancestors migrated here just like everyone else's, so that would make them not from here either. At what point does a population become citizens of the land they dwell in? Or can you not be a national citizen of the country if you do not match the correct skin color, perhaps? In the UK, Ireland and Western Europe, the people they call their ancestors, the Celts or Gaelic people, were not all one people anyway. And they didn't all just come here in one migration. They came here in waves from 2,000 to 3,000 years ago. They were offshoots of what is academically called the Yamnaya culture expansion. And do you know what else? They weren't even the first people here. The current population shares less than 10% of the original UK and Ireland people's genetics. The original genetics all but wiped out by the people now claiming the land. Now this may really annoy you. Those original hunter-gatherer people who first inhabited the UK, Ireland, France and much of Europe were by today's racial standards black. Genetic studies have been done on the early inhabitants of the UK and Ireland, and they had no SNP genetic markers for light skin. They had curly hair and some may have had blue eyes. According to the Fitzpatrick scale for skin tone, they fell between the two most darkest complexions. They had tropical limb proportions and largely a tropical cranial matrix. That means all those ancient megalithic sites like Newgrange, Stonehenge, Karnak were built by Black Basal European people, not by Gaelic-speaking people who, by the current far-right's definition, would be the immigrants. Immigration policy is quite simply not a black and white subject, though it is treated as such, and using isolated migrant crime incidents to ethnically, racially, religiously profile whole minorities as being dangerous, extreme, and a threat to local citizens proves nothing other than poverty and your own racist views. Your fear-driven anger and racial discrimination will do nothing but alienate ethnic minorities until you eventually have racial feudalism on your hands, which is already a factor. Here are some legit questions on immigration. Who are these migrants and why are they seeking citizenship? What is the screening process for migrants? What is the integration process for migrants? What is the integration process for local citizens? What capacity of migrants can our economy handle? Housing crisis, inflation, i.e., the cost of living, existing social political problems that the government has not addressed that our tax should be addressing. Why did we bail out the banks during the recession, and who repossessed all those empty houses previously owned by property developers, i.e. the rich, that could have been used to house our homeless community? And after the recession, why did they continue to lend money to the rich and middle class who helped cause the crash in the first place? Why are they pretending to lend money to first-time homeowners, when in reality they were lending to the rich class to buy recession low-priced properties for more rental income and investment purposes? Is there a more cynical plot behind their open-door policies? Are they feeding fear and division by allowing certain dangerous individuals into Europe so that we become fearful of all migrants and therefore differentiate ourselves from them? Through this created fear, are we being led away from compassion, unity, and closer to division? A controlled chaos, making it easier for elites to roll out things like digital ID, social credit, microchipping, 24/7 surveillance and data collection, manipulation, biotech transhumanism, and total control and loss of freedom under the guise of security and safety. These are all legit questions. You have to look at it as game theory. Find the elite's means to an end. Stop falling for their divisive traps and start finding ways to unite and fight injustice wherever it may be. Those people fleeing the poverty of wherever it is they came from are not the problem. The oligarchy bureaucrats and the financial elites that the bureaucrats work for are and have always been the problem. Take the fight to them. Stop fueling their economy, which is built upon slavery, colonialism, and neocolonialism. Cut off the fuel lines to these bankers and financial elites by bringing infrastructure, knowledge to Africa and the global south. When you cut off the pipelines to their power, you will be able to easily overthrow these crooks and establish new, fair and transparent councils in your own countries and create fair, just and economically valued relationships with the global south where nearly all the economic resources come from. When you stop drinking the Kool-Aid, they will have no poor class to fight their wars and carry out their bidding. This is how we save humanity. Big love and respect to all my Magi warriors out there. Hotep.